to the third episode of my channel, Parapsychology and the Least Explored Phenomena. In the last episode, I gave you an overall overview of what parapsychology is. We saw many spontaneous incidents, the perception of which was not through the known five senses. We saw incidents where a person gets a feel of pain when the close relative at far distant place was in pain. We also saw how a person could perceive a future event which is going to happen in his life. We also saw event where a person could get information from the deceased spouse. That is communication from a discarnate spirit. I also enlightened and discussed the happenings which happened personally to me when I saw my deceased mother at the time when my father breathed last. I also discussed about my personal experience when I could see a future event which was to happen in very near future, and these incidents prompted me to have a belief that such things are really true and there is some scientific basis behind them. Of course, even now, we are not able to uncover what are the scientific causes which make such things happen, where we perceive things without using the known five senses. We talked only about the incidents and tried to understand what parapsychology must be covering. In the current episode, I'll start with the terminology which the subject uses to explain the phenomena. I'll explore what all has been done to find out the causes or establish its truthness. Lot of work has been done since 1890s, where the first time the subject was studied in a scientific manner in UK, where SPR, Society for Psychical Research, was formed. Since then, a lot of work has been done. Even the subject has been studied in laboratories through various experiments which are done, and startling results have been found which establishes that there is truth in the existence of such bizarre phenomena, and these phenomena are not happening spontaneously just by chance. These have been statistically proved that these are certainly not due to chance causes. There are some assignable causes which make them happen. Scientists are still struggling to find out what are the basic causes which are lying behind such phenomena. Most of the research you will find has been to prove the existence of such phenomena or the truthness or trueness of these phenomena. This had become necessary because the findings or the claims of the parapsychologists were continuously being challenged by skeptics who did not believe in such phenomena. Because the thrust was on proving the truth behind these phenomena or the existence of such phenomena, not much work has been done towards finding what causes them. Very little literature is available on the causal research about parapsychological incidents. Still, some work is done. I'll discuss that also. And also, I'll take you to way forward as to what can further be done to find out what are the basic scientific causes which cause such incidents. Day is not far when we will uncover these causes and make these paranormal incidents become normal, as was done when science advanced to prove, to find out what were the causes behind thunderstorm, lightning, or rainbows, and those became normal. Since all these phenomena are psychic, that is relating to mind and consciousness, and consciousness, as you know, is still a hard problem. Scientists do not know much about what consciousness is and from where it comes from. But I'm hopeful in near future science will expand its horizons and explain these phenomena. With this, I start the next part of the webinar, which covers all these aspects which I just talked to you. Please watch. Now, the terms which come under the parapsychology is telepathy. As I explained to you about the telepathic incident of Hans, the creator of EEG, I think we have got a clear idea what is telepathy. Only thing we do not know how it works. Remote viewing is the ability to see long distance things without the eyes. So this expertise is there in few people who can see long distance through the mind's eye. Now, I tell you the real life happening, which is actually happened in USA, where they have been using these remote viewing experts for more than 20 years before the satellite area came in to spy on the enemy installations. They took the services of these people who could tell what is all there in the enemy locations. So these services were really taken by them. Now, clairvoyance, as I talked to you, is a insight or perceptiveness where you do not see through the mind's eye, you do not see through your physical eyes, but you see objects through your mind's eyes. The incident which I quoted you, Abraham Lincoln's incident, was a clairvoyant incident where he could see his own death in a dream. Precognition, I talked to you, I gave you an example of 100 Days movie where you can perceive the things before they happen. You come to know about them. There is another, apart from these terms which I explained to you, there is a term called psychokinesis, in which through your mind's energy, you can affect the objects which are around you. Some of you must have heard the name of Uri Geller. Uri Geller was a person who could gaze at a spoon and he could bend the spoon without even touching it. All of us know Shakuni of Mahabharata. Shakuni was able to manipulate the dice when it was thrown to bring the desired number. It was the act of his mind which could influence the outcome. These the terms which I talk to you are all taken under the name extrasensory perception. Now, apart from that, there are theories which talk about life after death. I talked to you about out of body experience, reincarnation, after death communication, as I told you about the widow who was worried about the will, and uh, she could get the will after there was a communication from his dead husband where the will was. Apparitions. Apparitions are the uh, real looking pictures or the person after death, when suddenly he appears before you in person. Of course, you cannot touch it, it just suddenly disappears. There is a very interesting incident quoted in the book by Judith N. R. Marto, where Winston Churchill, who was visiting America, uh, was in White House, and when he came out from his bath into his room, naked condition, he looked to see Abraham Lincoln standing by the fireplace in the room, leaning on the mantel. Churchill simply blinked before saying, "You seem to have me at a disadvantage," as he had just come into the room naked after bath. Lincoln apparently smiled softly before simply disappearing. This was an apparition of Lincoln. This is a true incident as told by Judith Anna Moreto in her book. Now, a lot of research is happening in these fields. These fields, research is going on, say, from the time of 1733 when there was a person called Mesmer, after whose name you have got mesmerism. Mr. Mesmer was a person who used to do human healing through touch. He used to feel that there is a human magnetism which he can pass on to the disease, to the patient, and he can cure him through the power which is flowing in him. During his treatment, the patients used to undergo a semi-conscious state, and in that semi-conscious state, they could tell what is going on in other person's mind who is in the other room. I think this was the first case of telepathy. In 1882, one Frederick Myers, he was a scholar, Henry Sedgwick, his friend philosopher, and Edmund Gurney, psychologist, they formed a psychic society for psychic research, which actually was uh, which actually started research on life after death. They also took to automatic writing, which we call planchette, where a person can communicate with the discarnate spirits through automatic writing. His work was published after his death. He died in 1901, but his book, Human Personality and Its Survival of Bodily Death, came in 1903. It dealt in automatic writing, communication with spirits, precognitive dreams, and trance states of mediums. Frederick Myers was so much passionate about research in life after death that he had told that after he dies, he will try to communicate with the world what he actually is experiencing after death. It is a matter written in literature that after his death, for 33 years, some communication in some form or the other was coming to the mediums in the world who were actually dealing in automatic writing. When they got this writing from the spirit, they were not able to understand it. But at the end of the writing, the spirit used to tell that send this communication to this place. And when the communications were received at that place and at that institution, when these were correlated together, these made senses. So it appears that even after death, he was trying to communicate to the world what happens after death. During the time after this Society of Psychic Research was formed in England, there was spiritual movement going on in the US. Paranormal happenings were explored, and there were a lot of surveys being done on life after death. There are people like William James, Sigmund Freud, American Society Press. A lot of literature came out on the surveys which was done on people who had experienced communication from dead people. After death, what happens? On that, Krippner has written there are three theories which have come out. One theory is uh, one theory is the theory which is normally goes along with the Indian philosophy that after you die, there is a spirit inside you called the soul, called the Atma, which is not destroyed, which goes out and it remains alive, and it enters another body, and you are reborn. This is the theory which is told by Krippner, Mormon. They say that this theory is true, and they had occasion to deal with mediums who had this after death communications. And there is a lot of literature available on that, on after death communications. Other people said, no, this theory is not correct. After death, body dies and everything is dead. There is nothing, no life after death. But then how do you explain the communication which you get after death from so-called discarnate spirits who are telling you some things which are not known to the people, worldly people? They say that this is because of the super PSI theory, that is the extrasensory perception which you have, which you can get it through telepathy from the mind of the person who is to whom this aspect is known, and through that you can come to know, and that's how you get this information. This information does not come from the spirits. So this is another theory, which is the super PSI theory. They do not advocate that there is anything after death.
After death, everything gets done. But the human mind is such that it can get to the communications through ESP or extrasensory perception. Lance Storm came out with another radical survivalism theory. This was a medium path between the two theories. He also said that there are no discarnate spirits. There is nothing called a ghost. There is nothing called a discarnate person who comes and tells you. But he told that there is a knowledge which remains alive after the body dies. And this knowledge goes and merges into the absolute knowledge. From this knowledge, how do we come to know about certain things is through super PSI. He again takes the shelter of extrasensory perception to find out the communications which are supposedly coming from the discarnate spirits. Fourth theory is thought by me, and I call it energy survival theory. In this theory, I go along with what is the Indian philosophy. The soul which is there, I call it as a individual self energy form. We are nothing but energy forms. There are unique, invisible, subtle energies which form us as a living entity. This individual self energy form, which is a subtle energy, is not visible. It is an invisible energy forms. There are invisible things, but those things exist. Like you cannot see air, but air is there. Air is all around us. Similar way, there are energies which are not visible to us. These are called subtle energies. So what we are actually are individual self energy forms. At birth, we this energy form gets transformed into another energy form, which I call it as self life energy form. This self life energy form is what we are actually experiencing in the world of a self. But this self life energy form at death, it it gets again transformed back into the original individual self energy form. So individual self energy form is the form which is unique, and self energy form is a form of transformation of individual self energy form into different self energy life energy forms in different life cycles. The energy survival theory is based on the scientific fact that energy cannot be destroyed, it only gets transformed. As I told you, it is something corollary to Indian philosophy. The soul I have termed as as a subtle energy form, which is ISEF, which does not get destroyed, but it can go on getting changed into different SLEFs in different body cycles. This was about the research which was done for life after death. Laboratory research was done for ESP, extrasensory perception, telepathy, you call it clairvoyance, or you call it precognition. This research was brought into laboratory by J.B. Rene, who is taken as a father in parapsychology for extrasensory perception. He came out with a unique idea that there are human beings who have the capability of clairvoyance. That is, they can look at the things without their eyes and tell you the correct thing. Like suppose you are playing cards, and if you keep the playing card with facing down, and if you are able to guess, and if your guesses are correct more than the chance times, there is a 50-50 chance that your guess will be correct. But suppose uh, over a repeated trials of more than 1,000 times, you have guessed the card, and more than 50 times if you are able to guess it correctly. That means you have the capability of clairvoyance, where you are able to guess the card correctly. J.B. Rene uh, did these experimentations, and in fact, he came out with a book called Extrasensory Perception, which is widely respected in the field of parapsychology. He, along with Jenner, they developed Jenner developed uh, 5 cards which had 5 different symbols. Instead of the suits and the 52 cards, he concentrated only with 5 cards because calculating the probability using 5 different symbols was easier. His work was tried to be replicated. Some people could do it, some could not do it, but still the results which were found statistically significant really left the world wondering whether there is something called clairvoyance. There were for finer designed experiments were done for remote viewing or for telepathy. For telepathy, there are experiments called under the name Ganzfeld experiments. Ganzfeld means a total field. The field is environment. That environment which is conducive to telepathy is created. In this, the person is made to sit in a reclining chair, and his eyes are covered. On his eyes, we cover half ping pong balls, which are translucent, and red red flood of light is just pushed on his eyes, and there is a music which is playing, which gives a soothing feeling. It is something like what we call meditation, bringing the person into a mental state where he is more capable of doing the telepathic activities. Now, in this Ganzfeld experiment, person is put in the acoustic room where nothing can go out, no, even the rays cannot go out, and there the person is made to sit there, and in another room or rooms few feet away, another person sits, who is the sender, who sends the images to the receiver. Now the sender is given some movie clips, out of which he selects one, and he concentrates on that movie clip and tries to send this movie clip through the mind to the other person. And later on, the other person, who is the receiver, is shown 5 clips. One of them is the original, and the 4 are which were not intended to be used. And he is asked to guess which one is the correct one, which the sender sent to him. This experiment repeated over a period of time, and uh, the response which the the receiver got, whether it was a correct hit, was evaluated statistically, and most of the experiments showed that the number of hits were more than the number of hits which you could get by chance. So they also said that there is something called telepathy. Now, pooling the results of so many experiments together and then arriving at the analysis, gives a positive indication that the presence of ESP is real. But whatever research has been done is always with a focus to prove that the existence of the phenomenon is real. Why was it so? It was because these are so queer things, so bizarre things that people do not simply believe. And to become popular, there were people who started doing frauds like magics, where the things were not real, but they tried to prove that these things are real. And when these frauds were discovered, the credibility of the real happenings was lost. There were skeptics, very famous ones like Alcock and Richard Wiseman, who always made a mockery of what parapsychology says. In fact, if you read the book of Wiseman, whose book is named Paranormality, Why We See What Isn't, it talks about the incidents which can be done to explain the phenomenon which we say that actually happening but are not happening. Either these are being done fraudulently, or these are the creation of mind. Like dreams, he said, if you dream every day, you dream, and one day a dream comes which is nearing to a real life happening, then you say, oh, I've got this clairvoyance. This can be a coincidence. This can certainly be a coincidence. So there are skeptics like that who were raising a lobby against parapsychology. So all the parapsychologists were bent upon uh, putting theories, doing experiments, doing research, which were all focused on proving the manifestation, but they were not actually going to going in the research to find out how these happen. The research was mainly to prove that these things are real. Now, here is the thing where I differ, and I'm taking the approach, or I'm not so much knowledgeable about different aspects which are related for finding out the hows and whys of these happenings. But these happenings are happening. I have myself experienced it, and I have seen people who say that they have experienced it. The incidents are so widespread, scattered, and spontaneous. So it cannot be that all those incidents can be a matter of fraud. Fraud needs planning. And these incidents, since these happen instantly at different places, scattered all over the world, and people are experiencing it. So these cannot be, there is no need to prove that they are real. That's what I think. What we should do is to find out why they happen, what is behind them. If I take you to primitive ages, the primitive man was very much terrified when he saw lightning. He was very much delighted when he saw a rainbow. He was frightened when thunderstorm came, because that time science had not advanced. We were not able to explain how these things are happening. So the primitive man thought these are paranormal events, or these are acts of God, or these are something magical. But when science advanced and the real scientific facts were known, what caused them, what were the environmental situations which brought them into manifestation, these paranormal things became normal. I think the same way, if we could research on hows and why for all these paranormal happenings called ESP or life after death, we shall certainly know what causes them, and automatically it will be proved that they are existing or non-existing. So the approach which we should take in further research, according to me, is that we should do causal research. So we take telepathy. Telepathy, as we see, is mind-to-mind connection. A mind thinks something and the other mind perceives it. So thought is the thing which is coming to the mind, and thought is the thing which is getting transferred. There was a grand scientist called Nikola Tesla in the time of Thomas Edison. Both had done a lot of work on electricity. Nikola Tesla is the person who is the inventor of induction motors. And Edison was working with the direct current. Nikola Tesla was working with AC, alternate currents. Ultimately, the world over, AC current, alternate currents gained the popularity and use. Nikola Tesla was at the time of his when he died. During that time, previous to his death, he was engaged in a invention which he was trying to invent, was a thought projector. He always felt when you get a thought, immediately by reflex action, an image is created at your retina. How else do you dream? Dream are nothing but the moving pictures. So thoughts produce pictures. So thinking that if thoughts produce pictures, if we could illuminate it somehow and transfer it to a outside projector, we can read the thoughts. People have been working on it, and maybe one day there will be somebody coming with a thought projector. Ralph Lewis, another researcher, thinks that thoughts are physical maps, artificial retinas, mathematical models, and algorithms to learn brain signals and reproduce a rough version of images in person's mind. So you can create artificial retinas, it appears have been created. Similar way, Matthew Hudson had said that mind reading algorithms can decode the pictures in head. The research has been going on in which people are trying to recreate the algorithms which can recreate the pictures which are coming as a thought. Regarding telepathy, it is seen through brain imaging that there are some areas in the brain which get activated when if you are brain imaging the telepathic people and non-telepathic people. The researchers have found out that in the minds of the telepathic people, there some areas the brain circuitry gets very alive, whereas in the people who are not telepathic, this does not happen. So there may be some areas in the brain which are related to that. If the pattern can be found out, and if that pattern could be somehow created, in the other person's mind, telepathy is possible. There is only one, it's out of so much literature which I read in parapsychology, there was only one literature which talks about uh, causal aspects, is the paper written by uh, Sonali Marwaha and Professor May, who say that precognition can be uh, can be uh, explained by theory of entropy, what they call entropy is chaos. They talk about two domains, one domain of physics, another domain of neuroscience, and through this thinking, they try to evolve a theory how the precognition can happen. In their theory, there are some questions which are not answered. Are what are it is very difficult to put all the aspects of the theory in the theory is complicated. In this talk, I cannot bring all the answers, but some unanswered questions in their theory which should be taken up for further causal research are: what are the retrocausal signal carriers that propagates backward movement in time, which is in the physics domain, and what are the nature of retrocausal signal transducer for making them reflex in the mind to perceive it. As far as the psychokinesis and life after death, research is very much in infancy stage and causal research is yet to be attempted. Causal research will only add to unravel mysteries of paranormal. Once we are able to uh, do this, when only the science could advance and explain the situations or the factors which come together to create the manifestation of such paranormal feats, then only we'll be able to know it. Now, coming to why I want parapsychology to be taught in Indian universities is because it has several benefits. The one benefit which we saw was in Stargate operation in USA, where they actually used it for their defense purposes. Now, another thing which you find is that if you are aware that if you are getting some communication, whether it is through spirits or whatever ESP you call it, but once you get some communication, your bereavement, uh, your grief reduces a lot because you are able to communicate with the loved one who has died, the loved one whom you are missing. If you are able to connect, then it certainly reduces your grief and it gives you comfort. If remote viewing is possible, it will break the barrier of distance. You would be able to see what is happening far away, and you could also communicate better with people. Recognition will warn us of coming dangers, and we can be prepared, or we could take some measures to have lesser harm in us. Another thing, if you know something about death, I always feel that ignorance breeds fear. We are afraid when we are not knowing, we are groping in the dark. Suppose you know what is death, then it will remove the fear. It will totally remove the fear, and death will be taken as the aging process. We know that we grow old, we lose a lot of our capabilities. So death will be taken as a process of aging only, and you will not be afraid what will happen after I die. Now, all these researches, the causal research which I talk about, is not going to happen overnight. Lot of effort is to be done. One thing we should realize that whatever is happening is having a correlation with mind and consciousness. Do we know all about mind? Do we know all about our brain? And do we know what consciousness is? We know very little. Once we do mind consciousness research, there will be it will need a revolutionary advancement in physics, medicine, and neuroscience. Now, as the parapsychology research, if it is done, if it is taught in the universities, it will expand the knowledge base more than any other thing. Only for the knowledge base, it should be taught in universities. Because what do universities do after all? Of course, they give you opportunities for your career. But the basic thing is that they are providing knowledge. And this knowledge base should be increased if you go into parapsychological research. Foreign institutions are teaching, researching, and teaching. There are so many of them which I've listed down. I will not go through because I've already passed the time. For starting the research, we should locate the talent having parapsychological knowledge. We can give them, university can give them a research platform where like-minded intelligentsia, physics, neuroscience, and psychology can join the above expert to do the research. They can create faculty out of it, and then they can design courses and they can teach. I think in the small time I could cover whatever I had to say. Now this group, intelligentsia, who get interested in this parapsychological field, I would like to join them. The people, knowledgeable people from physics, neuroscience, and medicines. So these, if they, I can join them, we could form a small cell and we can carry the research forward. My books are, my one book is published, which is for this topic. Another book is based on my experience with 45 years working in profession. It is for budding managers and entrepreneurs who can get benefited by reading that book, Place Management. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. And because we have the time limit, also you told us paranormal incident and the parapsychology. Come explain very briefly history of the parapsychology, research detail, and the research view of the forward, benefit from the parapsychology, and interfacing parapsychology in Indian University, and so many things you discuss. You also discuss about the telepathy, sixth sense, subconscious mind, subconscious mind, and conscious mind, and you also give the various examples regarding this, sir. But sir, we have the very short time with us already. We crossed the limit of the time and 6 minutes above that. But we have the also questions from the participant side. So I request to our assistant professor Rajendra Parmar, sir, please ask 1 or 2 questions, and after that we'll give the vote of thanks and we'll wind up the session. Yes, Rajendra Parmar.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, just would like to ask one question. That's how, as a profession in upcoming time, as in parapsychology.
Just repeat the question, please.
How, as in like a profession in upcoming time, parapsychology is?
See, presently, as a profession, there is not much scope because it is something like arts, BA arts you do. It is for expansion of knowledge. But once the knowledge expands and we are having faculty who can teach, this can become a teaching profession over a period of time. But more than a profession, the pursuit of parapsychology will be for benefiting the mankind, because mankind will be benefited greatly. If you can see, if you can get this telepathy at our tips, at our will, if we can produce it, it will revolutionize the world overall. So more than the profession or more than the career, it is for increasing the knowledge.
Okay, thank you, sir. And last question would like to ask, as a part of the students issue, student interest, that's the whether the in Indian any university is providing a parapsychological course or something like.
I don't think I want Parul to be the first to do it, and Parul to be the first university in India to take up this and to bring parapsychology on the world map for India. India must be on the world map for parapsychology. A lot of work is being done abroad, but we have not even started.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And one question is also coming from the student side. They are asking, sir, what is the relation between the dreams and sixth and telepathy and the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind? How they functioning and how they work it? So, what kind of the relation between that?
So this is the very pertinent question. Actually, the sixth sense we call it, or whatever terms you use in parapsychology, these are all related to mind. It is mind to mind connection if you talk telepathy, mind to matter connection if you talk clairvoyance, mind affecting really in materialistic terms, the object is psychokinesis. All these are related to mind. So, and the consciousness is very little understood. When you are in coma, you are unconscious, but you are not dead. How does the consciousness come into our being is not known. Even doctors tell you when the person will come out from coma and become conscious, they cannot tell you. So unless you, these are all very much connected. Once you do the research in mind, brain, and consciousness, then only you will be able to discover how these feats occur. These are all interrelated. Recently, my paper is being published on consciousness. Consciousness, some conscious thoughts, which will shortly be published. I think if the reader who is asking that question goes through that paper, it will give a lot of answers to him.
Have given some insight into what the parapsychological phenomena are and what all has been done to understand the phenomena, and still we are only at initial stages of causal research. As I said, there will be some breakthrough someday when the scientific basis or the causes behind such happenings will be found out, and these phenomena will no longer remain paranormal. This will happen through study of consciousness, which is the underlying factor which may be causing such happenings. This type of results can only be achieved through joint efforts of physicists, neuroscientists, medical people, and parapsychologists, if they come and form a team and pursue this research and aim towards finding the causal aspects behind such phenomena. Let us hope that this happens in our lifetime and we no longer treat them as paranormal. In coming episodes, I'll present to you the scenario of the world when we have unlocked the secret and we know what are the factors behind these phenomena, how the world will look like, what changes will happen in our way of living and thinking. Please wait for my next episodes. If these videos or episodes have created an interest in you, and if you want to know what further details are there in this field, I invite you to go through my books, which are available on Amazon and also on Flipkart. I am showing the titles of these books, which you can explore on Amazon and Flipkart. In these talks, it was not possible to cover the whole details, but these details are available in these books. The interested viewers can get these books from Amazon or Flipkart and study these books. I assure you that this will be an interesting read. Thank you. Please wait for my next episode.